Okay, so let's go over the third free response question. All right, so you are going to need a graphing calculator. If you don't plan on taking the AP test, you can get an online simulator. This is a 90-day free version. You can get some for your phone. If you are taking the AP test, you will need a physical graphing calculator. Okay, so what that means is you will be having decimal answers. The standard is that the answer is accurate to 3 decimal places minimum. So on this question, they give you a graph of f, and then they give you function g and function h. So let's look at part A. So for part A, they define k, and they want k prime of 0. So we're going to find k prime first. Product rule. So 1 d2 plus 2 d1. Okay, then we're going to substitute x equals 0. So k prime of 0 is f of 0. And sometimes you get a point for writing this out, so it's worth your time. There will be some things you can do by hand if you want, or I'm going to show you how to use the calculator because that's an option to save time. That's why they let you, okay? All right, so first we're going to find the function values. So I'm going to use f on the graph. So f of 0 says if x equals 0, what's the y value? So the y value right there is 3. So I'm going to substitute that. And then f prime of 0 is the slope at 0. So I need to find the slope of this line. So I go up 1, 2, and I went over 1. So that slope is 2, okay? Now for g, I can do that by hand pretty quickly. So I'm going to substitute 0, root 3. Now the derivative, we can't take the derivative by hand, but I'm going to show you how to use the calculator, okay? So I have a little TI-84 simulator. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in the original g function. So you're going to type in, it starts out probably on a clear screen, and you're going to go to y equals. So the root is right here in blue, and then we've got x right there, x squared minus x plus 3, okay? And then I'm going to get a picture of the graph. Now, to find the derivative, your calculator will do numerical derivatives. So any function that you want it to do, it's calc right here up in blue. So we're going to hit second, trace, and we want the derivative. Your calculator might say in deriv, in derivative, and that's the same thing. So I'm going to type in the 6, and I actually want it to be at 0. So once you have moved your cursor or typed in the value that you want, you're going to hit enter. And then notice it tells you the value of the derivative. You want to write this out to all the decimal places, okay? Because your answer has to be 2 decimal places accurate. So I'm going to go back to my sheet and I'm going to write that down. So this is negative 0.28865. All right, and this is k prime of 0. Now, technically, you can leave your answer. You do not have to simplify that, okay? If you did, you should get to 3 decimal places accurate, 2.598. All right, the point breakdown. You are going to get 1 point if you have f of 0. And you're going to get 1 point if you have g prime of 0. You could have done that by hand as well. And you're going to get your 3rd point if you have the entire thing put together. Okay? Notice I didn't circle this one. That is true, but for time's sake, we don't need you to multiply that out. You're checking to make sure you actually know how to do the problem. Let's look at part B. So on part B, we define m, and we're going to do the derivative to find when x equals 5. So m prime of x is a quotient rule. So low, d high, minus high, d low, all over low squared. So I've got 4, and then I just squared that myself. You can write it any way you want. All right, then we're going to find m prime of 5. So that means we put a 5 everywhere. And you can do this, like They understand. So I've got 2 times, we need to find some values. So if I plug in 5, and I'm just going to do that into the G really quickly. So what's that? 25, 20, 20 plus 3. So root 23. Now f prime of 5, so I need to go to 5 and find the slope, that line. So I went 1, I'm going to use, it crosses nicely there. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So negative 2/3 is the slope, and the y value is 5. So I get, that's the slope, so negative 2/3. And then I found f of 5 was 5 times 2. And then g prime of 5, same thing. Once I have my emulator, I still have g in there. I'm going to go back to second calc. I still want to find the derivative again. And sometimes on your calculator, you should be able to just type, it'll say like x equals, and you'll type in 5. My simulator's not letting me do that, so let me see if I can move over to 5. I'm hoping it finds it exactly. It does. So I'm going to write out all of those decimals. Oh, and then hit enter, sorry. So I got 0.9383149. I almost forgot, I just wrote down the y value. So let's go back here, and that was for right here, g prime. So 0.9383149. Write them all out because you're in the middle of a problem. All over 4 times g of 5, we said was root 23. You can even leave it like this, root 23 squared. Okay? If you did all this calculation, which I would not on a real AP test because that just takes up your time, what you're going to end up with is negative 0.171. They don't need that, so I would just leave this, okay? So on the grading, this is where 3 points. You're going to get 1 point if you found f prime of 5. And you get 1 point if you found g prime of 5. And you get 1 point for the entire m prime, okay? So you never really know what they're going to give you a value for. They do want you to use the calculator. I could have done the derivative by hand, but you see how much faster that was? Okay. And part C, they want you to find the value of x from -1 to 2 such that the slope of f is equal to the derivative of h. So we know that h, I'm going to write it over here. Oops, let's get a different color. H equals 5e to the x minus 9 sine of x. So h prime is 5e to the x. The derivative of sine is cosine. So 9 cosine of x. So I want when this is equal to the slope from, and we're looking from -1 to 2 on x. So let's go up here. So from -1 to 2, the slope's all the same, and we already found that that slope was 2. So I'm going to set this equal to 2. Now, you are not solving this by hand, okay? You really will need to use the calculator. So I'm going to make y1 this function, and I'm going to make y2 that function, okay? So get my emulator back out. We're going to go back to y equals. And I'm just going to clear all of that out. So I'm going to hit 2, and then I'm going to type that in. So I got 5. Here's e, so blue e to the x. Move your cursor over. And then minus 9, and then we have cosine of x. Make sure your calculator is in radians. If you're not sure, you're going to go to mode. And see, I'm in radians right here. You would just move down and hit enter on top of what you want. So I'm going to go to my graph. And we really only care about from -1 to 2. We want to know where they're equal, which is right there where they intersect. So we can find that on the calculator using the calculate. So second calc, and we want to do intersect. So I want you to move where you think it is on the first curve. So you're going to use your little arrows, And it doesn't even have to be exact. And then you're going to hit enter. And then it actually jumps it to the red curve. You just can't tell. And you're going to hit enter again. And then you hit enter to guess. Like, yeah, I think it's right there. And then it's going to find it exactly. So remember, we wanted the x value. So at 3 decimal places, x equals 0.622. So x equals 0.622. All right. So let's go through the grading. This one is worth 2 points. 3 points, sorry. So you are going to get 1 point if you found the derivative, 1 point if you set them equal to each other, and then 1 point for the answer. So each of these are worth 3 points. All right, there you go. I hope you did well. This also kind of gives you some insight into how we use the calculator. But